بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له قرارا به وتوحيدا وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. So my brothers, alhamdulillah, we just completed our study of the pamphlet, the Metin al-Bina, which is a small primer, small basis for us in the sciences subject of a tasrif al-sarf. Okay, in that, before we started that book, we spoke about the 10 fundamentals of sarf. Okay, what hadduhu, wa nisbatu, wa fadluhu, to the end of it. All the 10 things, fundamentals of any subject that a person should learn. Now, what we're going to do now is our study of Laamiyyatul-Af'aal. Throughout our study of Laamiyyatul-Af'aal, we're going to read from a book I put together. It's called An Easy Recall for Laamiyyatul-Af'aal. Okay, easy recall for Laamiyyatul-Af'aal. And this is basically exactly what it says. It's a way to recall the information in Laamiyyatul-Af'aal. Is that clear for brothers?
No.
Okay. It's important to know before we start studying Laamiyyatul-Af'aal, you guys are memorizing the phone. As I mentioned, the way to master any mukhtasar, any summarized book, or any subject, period, you have to have something memorized. You have to have something memorized on that you can build on other things with. Okay. Here, the thing that you're going to memorize in the subject of sarf is Laamiyyatul-Af'aal. That's going to be your weapon. Okay. I put on my WhatsApp status today. It says a wise martial artist, he once said, there may be 100 swords, right? Or 100 positions, right? But you win with just one. You win with just one. As a student of knowledge, what we understand from this, how do we Islamify this as people, students of knowledge? Meaning that it may be 100 books on something, okay? Maybe 100 books on a subject. You win with just one though. You got one book that you lock down. You memorize that book. This is what the book that you go back to on you. You win. You've won the battle, okay? And this is why the people of knowledge, they mentioned for the student of knowledge, after they memorize the Quran, they should memorize a mukhtasar, a summarized version of that subject in each science. Okay. So what we memorizing here is Laamiyyatul-Af'aal for our subject of sarf. Okay. Is that clear?
No.
Oh yeah. So let's go through this book. Okay. Okay, it says what? An easy recall for Laamiyyatul-Af'aal, translated, summarized, and compiled by Abu Sa'id Umar bin Umar Ramadan. Copyright 2023. Okay. First edition. The book is not published yet. I haven't put the book out yet. So you guys will be the first people exposed to this. Okay? Yeah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In every name of Allah, the possessor of limitless mercy, the bestower of mercy. We have a table of contents. Let's read the table of contents. Whenever you read any book, it's important, before you put that book into your into your bookshelf, you should read at least the table of contents and the introduction of that book, for you to have some general overview of what you have in your library. Perhaps you want to research an issue, you go back, I remember this book talks about that, you can go back and benefit. Bismillah. Let's read the table of contents.
Hassan, you read?
Yeah, Hassan, you read that.
Inshallah, سأبدأ. Table of contents, introductory points. A, the preface, the B, brief background information about the poem. C, a brief biography of Ibn Malik, who passed away 672 Hijri. D, the 10 fundamentals of Sarf. E, general guidelines regarding the Sarf scale, al-Mizan al-Sarfi. F, a scanned ijaza of Laamiyyatul-Af'aal with a chain back to the author.
So, introductory points, preface is from me. It's an introduction that I wrote regards to the book. Background information about the poem is going to give you information about it. Talk about the author. The 10 fundamentals of Sarf, we already spoke about that, right? The general guidelines regarding the Sarfi scale, we already spoke about that before our study of al-Bina. Remember that?
No.
And then we have the ijaza. Keep going.
Number 2, the Arabic text.
The poem in Arabic right there.
Number 3, the translation.
Translated the whole poem, alhamdulillah. Okay.
Number 4, the summary.
The summary, okay. On the summary, keep going.
A, the introduction. B, the chapter regarding the scales of the fi'l mujarrad and how to flip it from the madi to mudari'. C, the section on how to connect the ta al-damir, the noon al-damir, or na to the fi'l madi al-thulathi ajwaf.
So the first chapter deals with the fi'l mujarrad. We spoke about those fa'ala, fa'ila, fa'ala, and fa'lala, right? How to flip it from madi to mudari, meaning how do I is it fa'ala yaf'ulu or fa'ala yaf'ilu or fa'ala yaf'alu or fa'ula yaf'ulu or fa'ila yaf'alu wa yaf'ilu, okay? And fa'lala yufa'lilu. How do I flip it from the past tense to the future tense? Clear?
No.
Second section, he says how to connect the tab damir. The tab damir is the tab, the pronoun tab that I say like fa'altu, fa'alta, and nuna damir, the nuna initial like fa'alna for a group of women, or na, fa'alna, we did it. How do I connect that to a fi'l madi, a past tense verb, to thulathi ajwaf? We just took this in our last class. What is the ajwaf verb?
نعم حمزة. حمزة في الأول.
It's the mu'tal ajwaf.
Aywa. It's a weak letter in the middle of the word, like qala. How do I say I said? Qultu. Okay. How do I say I weigh kiltu? Okay. For example, keep reading.
Yep. D, the chapter regarding the scales of the fi'l of the fi'l mazid fihi. Fi'l mazid fihi.
All the scales those scales with extra letters on it. Okay. That we took 35 of them, or we say 29 of them, because 6 of them was mujarrid from al-bina. Right?
No.
Keep going.
E, the section regarding the fi'l mudari'.
How do I flip the fi'l mudari? How do I put the madi into the fi'l mudari? Okay. Keep going.
F, the section regarding the fi'l whose fa'ils is not mentioned.
How do I say he was hit? Okay, I don't want to mention who hit him. Say, yo, he was hit. Durubtu. Okay, he was hit. I don't want to mention the fact. I don't want to mention who did it. That's how do we flip it? How do I make that change? Keep going.
G, the section regarding forming the fi'l amr.
How do I want to command someone? It's a command. How do I form that? How do I flip that around? Fi'l amr. That's how we do it in that chapter. Keep going.
H, the chapter regarding the scales of the ism al-fa'il and the ism al-maf'ul.
How do I want to say somebody's doing something? Ism al-fa'il. Who hafidun, he's memorizing, okay? Who a Muslim, he's submitting, okay? Or how do I say the ism al-maf'ul? How do I say that action was done? Who a maktub is written, okay? Who a madrub is hit. He was hit. Like, how do we flip that around? That's in that chapter. Keep going.
I, the chapter regarding the thulathi masadir scales.
Hey, what's the rules of, is it like nasran or fathan, the masdar, the origin of it? What's the scales of the thulathi? We're going to mention that in the rules, the general rules and principles on how to form it. Keep going.
J, the section regarding the masadir scales for those verbs with 4 or more letters.
So what's the masdar when we did like ijtama'a, yajtami'u, ijtima'. What's the rule on how do I form that? Okay? Or is istaghfara, yastaghfiru, istighfar. What's the general rule on how to make this? That's what we talk about there. Clear?
Yeah. K, the chapter regarding maf'il and both their meanings.
Okay. Like majlis or majlis. Okay. And what do they mean? Scale maf'al and maf'al. We're gonna get there. No?
L, the section regarding the scale of maf'alatun, which indicates an abundance of something in a place.
Here I have a mektabatun. A mektaba is what? A library. It's a place where it's a bunch of books. How do I form that? That's in that scale. That's in that chapter. Keep going.
M, the section regarding forming the ism al-ala.
Ism ala, the tool for something. Okay. I want to say that this is a tool to open something up. So it's a miftah. I want to say that this is a tool for me to brush my teeth. Miswak. Okay. Clear?
No. And N, the conclusion.
Conclusion of Ibn Malik to this poem. Bismillah. 5.
5, the appendix.
The appendix, these 5 sections in the appendix is additional benefits that I added to the work. Okay. additional benefits that I added after speaking about summarizing the whole poem. It's extra benefits that's going to benefit the reader, inshallah.
A. Supplementary benefits regarding the fi'l mujarrad scales. B. The fi'l mazid charts.
Charts of all the fi'l mazid, all the scales, examples form, the extra letters, keep going.
C. The meanings of the fi'l mazid scales.
All the meanings for example, fa'ala, like allama. What's the meanings of these scales, right? What's the meaning of the scale istaf'ala? We said that was talab al-fi'l, right? To seek a verb. But I told you guys there's more meanings than that, right?
No.
It's going to mention all the meanings of the different scales.
D. The asma'ul fa'ilin wal al-maf'ulin charts.
Charts is charts.
No. E. The thulathi masadir charts.
Right.
And 6. Bibliography.
So my references, where I got this knowledge from. So let's read the preface. Is everyone clear with that?
No.
Preface. Let's read. This is from me. This is my introduction. Bismillah.
Bismillah. Preface. All praises belong to Allah. We praise Him, seek His aid and forgiveness. I testify that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah, who is alone and has no partners. Likewise, that Muhammad bin Abdullah is His servant and final messenger. To proceed, this is a translation and summary of the Arabic poem entitled Laamiyyatul-Af'aal, written by Jamaluddin ibn Malik, who passed away Hijri 672 Hijri. It's a poem consisting of 114 lines dealing with the Arabic science entitled As-Sarf or At-Tasrif. I compiled this brief summary after memorizing the poem and studying it with my teacher Abu Tawbah, may Allah preserve him. The purpose behind its brevity is for it to be an easy, organized way for myself and others to record the information.
Purpose. Remember that. Okay, it's not supposed to be a long, drawn-out sharh. Okay, it's for you to be able to recall the information. That's why it's an easy recall for Laamiyyatul-Af'aal. That's the purpose. Okay, you want to get into details? Read the shurah. Read the other explanations. Clear?
No, clear. Regarding the translation, I translated the entire poem, attempting to stick closely to the language and intent of the author. For much of this, I used the beautiful book entitled Khulasa al-Qawl fi Nazar wa Shahar.
Khulasa al-Aqwal.
خلاصة الأقوال في نظر والشرح لامية الأفعال وشيخ محمد رفيق ونشريسي.
That's this book right here. In this book, what he did was the sheikh, he explained, it's two books in one. The first part of the book, his first book, he explained Ubaidu Rabbi, the poem of Ajrumiyya. Okay. Then the second book in here is where this book right here. What he did was he put the lines of poetry of Laamiyyatul-Af'aal in regular speech. So he broke it down into like everyday talk. Is that clear?
No.
Keep reading.
In this book, the author explained the Laamiyya and placed each verse in prose. However, the translation here is not word for word. I opted out on doing so for the following reasons. One, oftentimes these types of translations. No.
Read it again. Read again.
From where?
Just I opted out on the. However, the translation here is not word for word. That's an important point. I'm gonna tell you why I didn't do it word for word.
However, the translation here is not word for word. I opted out on doing so for the following reasons. One, oftentimes these types of translations defeat the purpose of the English reader actually understanding what is being said. As a result, the translator is forced to translate it a second time in a footnote or in parentheses by saying, in other words, it means, which I feel is a waste of time. Placing in it plain English the first time is sufficient.
Is that clear?
No.
It happens all the time, right? You have i.e. such and such. Like you could have just said that, right? Just say that the first time instead of it was word for word translation. They don't benefit. You understand? But I didn't deviate from the language of the author like that, though. Okay, it's not just like I didn't deviate from that. Okay, I try to stick closely to the language of the author. Okay, but I did it in a point where if you just read the translation, you can understand the poem, inshallah. Okay?
mm.
Yeah. The second reason, many times in Arabic poetry, the normal sequence of a sentence is not adhered to, or words may even be cut out due to the need of the keeping the rhythm scheme intact. Thus, some words may not be mentioned that are intended to keep the poem short and concise.
But then a lot of times in Arabic language, we have something called al-haf, where some things are not mentioned, but it's intended to be there. Like if I said, man anta, right? Or I say, ma ismuka, what's your name? You say Muhammad, i.e. Muhammad, ismi Muhammad. You didn't say my name is Muhammad, though. You said Muhammad. You understand?
No.
So some things are not even mentioned in the Arabic language. You understand? Keep going.
Nevertheless, I do not intend for this book to be studied without a teacher for those unqualified.
Stop. That's an important point. I said this book is not to be studied without a teacher for those unqualified. Meaning, if you qualify, you can read it yourself. You're gonna benefit. You're gonna understand. You understand?
No.
If you don't have a if you're not qualified, or if you don't have a background in this, you're gonna go astray. You understand? You're not gonna understand what I'm talking, what's going on here. Okay?
No.
Keep going.
If any mistakes are found in this presentation, then it is from my own ignorance. I ask Allah to make this small effort sincerely for him, beneficial to myself and his servants, and accepted as an ongoing charity after my death. May blessings and salutations be sent upon Allah's Messenger and upon all his family members, companions, and those who follow them in goodness until the last day.
Clear?
No.
Yeah. Wait, move on. Let's learn about this poem. What is the poem about? Okay.
No.
Muhammad, let's read. You read.
Bismillah. Brief background information about the poem, its name and subject matter. The official name of this poem is entitled أبنية أفعال في علم التصريف.
You can find the name of this. You can find the name of this in the famous explanation. We're going to speak about Imam Bahrak. In this explanation, he said to mention he mentioned the official name of this poem. Keep reading.
However, it is famously known by Laamiyyatul-Af'aal for two reasons. Every last letter in each verse ends with a lam alif, hence the name Laamiyya. Secondly, the subject matter dealing mostly with tasrif of the af'al and the asma that are derived from it.
So two reasons why it's called Laamiyyatul-Af'aal. The first is that every last letter ends with a lam, so it's Laamiyya. Alhamdulillahi la abghi bihi badala. Hamdan yuballighu min ridwanihi al-amala. Well, that's right. Amala. Okay. See, okay. That's just like the poem Al-Ha'iyya that we're going to study with Sheikh Salih al-Suhaimi, right? Al-Ha'iyya. Every last line ends with a ha. Okay?
No.
Okay?
No.
It's attributed to Af'al because it shows us how to flip the Af'al, the verbs, okay? And also those asma that's derived from it, okay? So it doesn't talk about the tasrif or asma like Zayd, or if I want to do a plural of Zayd like Zuyud, okay? Or Ziyad or Zuyaid, a small man. It only talks about verbs and things that's derived from it. Keep reading.
Scholars have mentioned that this poem is a completion to the Sarf section in Ibn Malik's famous poem Al-Khulasa, aka Alfiya ibn Malik.
Scholars have mentioned that this is the completion, meaning Alfiya ibn Malik came first. There's 1,000 lines dealing with Sarf and Nahu. He wrote this poem as a completion to the Sarf section because he didn't talk about Tasrif al-Af'al. Is that clear?
No.
Oh, yeah. Keep reading.
Its number of verses. The original poem consists of 114 lines. Later on, two scholars came after Ibn Malik and added more verses to his Lamiyya. The first one, Imam Bahraq al-Hadrami.
Al-Hadrami is an inscription to the city of Hadramaut in Yemen. He was a Yemeni scholar. Keep reading.
Al-Hadrami, he passed away 930 after Hijrah, rahimahullah.
Read the footnote. Imam Bahraq.
Imam Bahraq wrote a famous explanation to the poem entitled Fa al-Aqfal wa Hal al-Ashkal bi Sharh Lamiyya al-Af'al. In this explanation, he added some verses and left other numerous benefits. supplementary issues and points of discussion are in prose. In most manuscripts of the poem, the lines on poetry which were composed by Bahraq have been distinguished from those of Ibn Malik's and Al-Hasan by writing in green.
إمام بحرك شرح فتح الأقفال وحل الأشكال بشرح لامية الأفعال. This is the masdar. This is the main explanation. This is the reference point that all explanations after him are coming from. Okay, so the person who studies Laamiyyatul-Af'aal, after they got a basic understanding, I recommend every talib al-ilm to read the sharh. Period. Keep reading.
No.
Number two.
Number two, Al-Hasan ibn Zayn Ashanqiti. He passed away 1310 after Hijri, rahimahullah.
Mauritanian Sheikh. Keep going. Al-Hasan.
Al-Hasan placed the benefits that Bahraq left out in prose into poetry, along with adding more benefits and explaining the poem. The lines of poetry composed by Al-Hasan have been distinguished from those of Ibn Malik's and Bahraq's by being written in red, being known as Al-Ihmirar.
Al-Ihmirar. So let me show you something real quick. This is Imam Bahraq Sharh right here, okay? This is a Turra. This is Al-Hasan ibn Zayn, his explanation and what he contributed to Laamiyyatul-Af'aal, okay? It's like the main reference point right here, okay?
Al-Bahr is one. What's the how thick is it? Let me see again. Sorry.
Bahraq Sharh is like this.
It doesn't look okay. SubhanAllah.
It doesn't look long, but it's packed. I mean, packed with fawaid and benefits, okay?
SubhanAllah.
Now, keep reading.
The significance of this poem, Laamiyyatul-Af'aal, is special because it gives a comprehensive understanding on how to build words by focusing on two things. Number one, the general rules and principles of sarf al-qiyasiyya. Number two, those words that are exception to the rules
So Ibn Malik gives us two things. He gives the rules and principles of sarf. This is the rule, such and such. And also he gives us the exceptions to the rule, okay? These words, they're going to be excluded from the rule. Clear?
No.
Clear?
No.
For example, Ibn Malik says, this is a general rule of such and such, and these are words that break the rule or go outside of it. The author does this because knowing every single word in a language is impossible. However, by focusing on the general rules and principles of sarf, along with their exceptions, the student is able to become grounded in the science and is able to build a very solid foundation. Studying further books in sarf and picking up additional benefits will become much more easier. Furthermore, the student's vocabulary should gradually increase as well as their understanding of the nuances between words.
Nuances meaning the differences, the subtle differences between words, okay? The meaning in with regards to their meaning. Okay, keep going.
As a disclaimer, the author doesn't.
Pardon me.
No, as a disclaimer, the author does not claim to mention every single issue in the science of sarf. However, he does make a promise that the poem will cover what is important to know. Numerous scholars mention that this poem is a must to memorize and understand, so much that the late Sheikh Muhammad ibn Ali ibn Adam al-Ethiopi, he passed away 1442 after Hijri, rahimahullah, said in his explanation, whoever memorizes and understands this poem, it will benefit him the rest of his life.
That's a heavy statement. So whoever memorizes and understands two things, memory and understanding, it will benefit him the rest of his life. Wallahi, I've seen the benefit just since the time I memorized and studied it till now when I'm reading the Quran or reading the Sunnah, okay? And again, he doesn't claim to mention every single issue in Psalm. So this book here, Laamiyyatul-Af'aal, is not going to mention everything in Psalm. That's something to know for sure, okay? Some issues may not be mentioned. However, what he does give you what is important. What is important here is learning the rules, the general qawaid, the general rules and principles, and then learning the exceptions. Okay?
No.
Wait, any questions?
No.
Oh, yeah. Let's read the biography of the author, and then is it everyone have time to read the biography of the author, or
No, I'm not in a rush.
No, I'm joking.
oh, please. So let's read the biography of the author, Jamaluddin Ibn Malik. Let's read the footnote here. I put a footnote. Sorry. Go ahead.
Much of this biography was translated from the explanation.
Read the title. The brief.
نعم عفوا. A brief biography of Jamaluddin ibn Malik. Much of this biography was translated from the explanation of this poem entitled الطورة التوشيح لامية الأفعال ابن مالك by Al-Hassan ibn Zayn al-Shinqiti. He passed away 1310 after Hijri rahimahullah. I used the following print of the book. First edition Darul Kitab Al-Ilmiya in Beirut, Lebanon, 2014, page 29 to page 65.
Oh, yeah. His name and lineage.
مرة أخرى؟
Oh, I'm saying, okay, continue to read. His name and lineage.
عفوا. His name and lineage. He's a unique, one of a kind, Al-Allama, the Imam in the Arabic language, Jamaluddin Abdullah Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Malik at-Ta'i. His tribe name. At-Ta'i. His tribe name. Al-Janani. Al-Jayani. His hometown. Al-Shafi'i. الشافعي نعم الشافعي. His fiqh school of thought. النحوي. His field of expertise. His birth and upbringing. The Imam Jamaluddin ibn Malik was born around 600 Hijri, during the time frame of the Crusades in Al-Jayyan, a beautiful small village in Andalusia, Spain, near the famous city of Al-Qurtuba. Specifically, the Fourth Crusade happened the same year he was born, where the southern French invaded Spain and tried to kill all the Muslims. His family was from the Spanish Moor tribe of Ta'i.
It was very important when we learned in the background of the scholar that he was born during a difficult time. They was fighting. They was fighting for their lives, trying to defend Islam. And what did he do? He still preserved knowledge. He still wrote down, he made it his business to preserve the knowledge by writing these poems and these books so that we, 800 years after him, still benefiting from him. Keep reading.
His search of knowledge. Imam Ibn Malik began his education in his village of Al-Jayyan with the memorization of the Quran, studies in the science of Qira'at, Nahwu, and Fiqh, according to the Maliki madhab. During the prime of
that was the madhab mostly in Spain, okay? Notice that he started his education in his village, amongst his people, amongst those people in his locale, okay? Keep going.
No. During the prime of his youth, between the years of 620 Hijri and 630 Hijri, Ibn Malik made hijrah from Andalusia to the lands of the east. He did this for two reasons. Firstly, Ibn Malik left Andalusia due to the severity of the Crusades. Secondly, he wanted to follow the custom of the ulama of his time in Andalusia, who traveled for Hajj and in search of knowledge. During his travel, Ibn Malik stopped in Egypt, and he eventually settled in Damascus, Syria, where he taught the science of Arabic and the science of Qira'at during his lifetime. The 5th, 6th, and 7th Crusades were also taking place in Andalusia.
Oh, yeah. His life, Hassan, Bismillah, read.
Nah. Bismillah. His life as an educator. Despite being away from the Arab world and living in a great time of fitna, Ibn Malik spent his entire life in a state of jihad, striving hard to preserve Islam through the visa of preserving the Arabic language. Without a doubt, Ibn Malik excelled in the Lugha and Nahwu until he became an ocean and the go-to man with regards to knowing the intricate details of Nahwu.
Pardon me.
Afwan.
You
knowing the intricate details of Nahwu, Sarf, Lugha, and the poetry of the Arabs, On top of this, he was also an expert and imam in the science of qira'at. Much of Ibn Malik's extensive expertise in the language was due to him constantly reading everything he could get his hands on. The Shaykh would read material that was agreed upon, and even those strange works that were not agreed upon, in order to broaden his scope of the language.
Something
As
that
for
one of the things that we benefit from this so far is that you will never find a scholar of qira'at, or you will never find a scholar of the Quran who is not a scholar of lugha, of language. They go hand in hand. Okay.
subhanAllah.
The thing is that notice how he went deeper in his knowledge. He read everything. You understand? It wasn't like he only stuck to this one thing. No, he read those weird things as well. Why? To broaden his scope of knowledge. It doesn't mean that he agrees with it, but he understands it, and he has a scope on those other statements that was said. You understand? Keep going.
SubhanAllah. As for the poetry of the Arabs, then Allah made writing poetry very easy for him. He was a well-known expert to this science of Arabic, in which he would constantly bring proofs for the way he would speak or write by quoting the Arab poetry of old. His gift.
We know for sure that, remember, we said one of the sources of the Arabic language is what? Kalam al-Arab, the speech of the Arabs, the old speech. Keep going.
His gift of gab and strong knowledge of the language would constantly astonish the A'imma of his locale. He used to brag about being the most knowledgeable person in the world with regards to the Arabic language. On top of this,
Keep going.
On top of this, one of his students was the well-known Imam An-Nawawi, subhanAllah, 676 Hijri, the author of the famous collection of Ahadith, Riyadus Salihin, and many other works.
Now, matter of fact, he quoted in Alfiyyat ibn Malik, he bragged about him being one of his students. He said, what? وَنَحْوُ عِنْدِي خَيْرٌ. What? He said what?
No, he did actually.
He mentioned he indicated and pointed to Nawawi being a student in Alfiyyat ibn Malik. He said what? وَلَا يَجُوزُ الْإِبْتِدَاءُ بِالنَّكِرَةِ مَا لَمْ تُفِدْكَ عِنْدَ زَيْدٍ النَّمِرَةِ وَهَلْ فَتًى فِيكُمْ فَمَا خِلٌّ لَنَا وَرَجُلٌ مِنَ الْكِرَامِ عِنْدَنَا.
عندنا. SubhanAllah. I heard Abdurrahman Hassan talk about this, actually. He said that was trying to complete that sentence, and Imam Nawawi walked past, and then he completed it.
Allahu Akbar. Now he said, وَرَجُلٌ مِنَ الْكِرَامِ عِنْدَنَا. He said, in a noble man is amongst us. He's talking about Imam Nawawi. That was just one of his students. Keep going.
Afwan, so quickly, so this whole time I wanted to ask you, the Imam Malik, the Imam of the Alfiya, this is the same Imam Malik who wrote the Laamiyyatul-Af'aal.
Yes.
SubhanAllah. So this is his completion to the sarf part of his Lamiyya, of his Alfiya.
Exactly. It's completion to Alfiya.
So it's like a standalone sarf, but he also talks about sarf in Alfiya as well.
Right, he does, but it's only من جهة تصريف الأسماء, for example, like it doesn't mention these issues of sarf, okay?
Okay. He just does like maybe a khulas or something, but he did an actual book on it too. Okay,
in Alfiyyat ibn Malik, he mentions sarf, but you have two angles of studying sarf. You have sarf with regards to asma, ismons, okay? Okay, in different general principles there, and then you have specifically dealing with verbs, okay?
Now, his character and personality. Imam Ibn Malik embodied the Islamic personality and the character and manners of the ulama. He was well known for his firmness and practice of the religion. The Shaykh prayed many nawafil prayers, and it is said that he was very generous and displayed beautiful Islamic akhlaq with others. He maintained a high sense of reverence about himself, possessing a truthful tongue, a soft heart, and a complete, sharp intellect. Ibn Malik was so eager for knowledge that the day he died, he memorized 80 lines of poetry. The Shaykh was not seen except that he was offering salah, reciting Quran, reading or writing books. His teachers, from those scholars who taught Imam Ibn Malik were, number one,
before we read the names of these scholars, like my teacher said when he wrote the poem to Aqidah al-Bukhari, he said, Bukhari quoted scholars' names, but to be brief, I must refrain. And Imam al-Bukhari's Aqidah, he mentioned all the scholars he learned with. He mentions some heavy hitters. He did. My teacher didn't mention the names of the scholars. Why? Because it's not beneficial for the layman, right? He mentioned all these names, but the people they don't even know who they are. We only mention the scholars here for the benefit of the reader, okay? But we're not gonna focus on these. You understand the point?
For the layman who doesn't have exposure to ulama and their names. Is that what you
Right.
mean?
It's not beneficial, right? Like, okay, you quit quoting names. Sheikh so and so. All right, who is he? You understand? Like
No.
the guy who gives the khutbah, he just mentions all these different scholars' names, but I was quote from the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. You understand? Instead of saying just quoting people. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I'm with you, but for the Tulab al-Ilm, it was a different,
For
complete
sure,
different
it's
story.
different. It's different for
Mm.
sure.
Yeah, for the layman, it's just random names that they may not know who they are. Yeah.
Exactly. Keep reading.
So, from those scholars who taught Imam Ibn Malik were number one, Thabit bin Khayyar al-Libi, who learned Qira'at in Arabic from In al-Jayyan. He died 628 Hijri. Number two, Abu Ali Umar ibn Muhammad al-Ishbili al-Nahwi, 645 Hijri, passed away. Number three, Sadi, Abu Sadiq al-Hasan ibn al-Sabah al-Nahwi. He passed away 632 Hijri. Number four, Najmuddin Mukrim ibn Muhammad, well known as Ibn Abi al-Saqar al-Nahwi, 635 Hijri, passed away. Number five, Shamsuddin Ahmad ibn al-Hussein, well known as Ibn al-Khabbaz al-Mawsili al-Faqih al-Nahwi. He passed away 637 Hijri. Number six, علم الدين أبو الحسين علي ibn Muhammad al-Sakhawi, the student of Imam al-Shatibi al-Muqri, 643 Hijri.
Nah, that's Shatabiya, right? You heard that, bro?
نعم yeah, subhanallah.
He's a student of Shatabi. Like, keep reading, I keep reading, akhi.
Subhanallah, that Shatibi, that's the same Shatibi who wrote the seven Hijz al-Amani.
Wow, this is who he's talking about. Wow.
SubhanAllah, his student taught Imam Malik. I know.
Yeah.
His students. There were many students of knowledge who studied the Arabic language under Ibn Malik. However, he did not have any students who narrated from him in the science of Qira'at. Some of his students.
I have to mention this, that this Ibn Malik, rahimahullah ta'ala, he was so eager to pass down knowledge, akhi. He used to sit outside of his door and call out and say, who wants to learn knowledge? Like, who wants to learn from me? Like, but nobody would want to learn. In a sense, so he would close his door and just go back in his house. But he used to be really wanting to spread knowledge because he knew he had something and he had to give it away, but people wasn't eager like that. You understand? Shows that we gotta spread knowledge. You understand? The person who has something, he has to share it, he has to give it away. You understand? That's just the nature of anyone who has a, I gotta share this, right? The Prophet said, what? إِذَا مَاتَ الْإِنسَانِ when a person dies, all of his deeds are done. Step 3, and from this, what knowledge is left behind is benefited from. Right? Keep reading.
His students. There were many students of knowledge who studied the Arabic language under Ibn Malik. However, he did not have any students who narrated from him in the science of Qira'at. Some of his students were, number one, his son Muhammad Badruddin, who wrote an explanation to this poem of Laamiyyatul-Af'aal and other works of his father. He passed away 686 Hijri.
He wrote a poem, the Laamiyyatul-Af'aal. I was blessed to read that explanation. It's a very short explanation. He also wrote an explanation of Al-Fiqh ibn Malik. Keep reading.
Number two, Imam al-Nawawi, Muhyiddin Abu Zakaria Yahya bin Sharaf, the famous Imam who passed away 676 Hijri. Number three, Imam Ibn al-Attar Abu al-Hasan Ali ibn Ibrahim al-Damashqi al-Shafi'i, who passed away 724 Hijri, the famous student of Imam al-Nawawi.
He has a very famous explanation of Arba'in an-Nawawiyya. I would advise everybody to get that.
Number four, Ibn Jama'a Badruddin Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Muhaddith, the author of the famous work تذكرة السامي والمتكلم في آداب العالم والمتعلم. SubhanAllah.
One of the books that we're going to read in our readings or gathering, where we read books of the people of knowledge of Adab al-Talib. It's one of the books that we're going to read. He's one of his teachers, one of his students.
His creed. According to my knowledge, there has not been anything written in the different books of biographies that mention the Imam's Aqidah. He's authored works. Ibn Malik authored over 40 beneficial works in the various sciences of the Arabic language and the science of Qira'at. Some of the people have mentioned that 28 of them are poems. From the most major of his works are 1. Al-Khulasa, the 1002-line poem on Nahwu and Sarf, known as Alfiyatu Ibn Malik. It is Ibn Malik's most famous work. Number 2, Laamiyyatul-Af'aal, the 114-line poem on the science of Sarf, which is this book. Number 3, Al-Malikiyya, a poem on the science of Qira'at. SubhanAllah. Number 4, At-Tasheel, a work on the different benefits of Nahwu and Sarf. His death. Ibn Malik died 672 Hijri in Damascus, Syria, at the age of 75. May Allah have great mercy on him.
So that's the biography of the Imam, rahimahullah ta'ala, whose book and poem, and we benefiting from him. You understand? We standing on his shoulders. You understand? So it's important that we learn who we're studying from, as well as that's one of the benefits. One of the ways of staying consistent and seeking knowledge is reading the biographies of the people of the past, seeing how high they got and how low we are, you understand, as a means of aspiration. You feeling down, you understand? You want, how did they get that? Read about their lives to be an example for you. Okay. Now, so we're gonna end the class with that. The next part of the book is the 10 fundamentals of Sarf. We may read this as a review, we may not, okay, because we took that already, right? We may not, okay? And then we have the general guidelines regarding the Sarfi scale. We spoke about that too when we study Al-Bina. I advise you guys to review that information. Is that clear?
No.
Yeah. And then we have a scanned copy of the Ijazah for Laamiyyatul-Af'aal with the chain back to the author, okay? It's an Ijazah for this poem from my teacher and, to me, okay? With the Islam, okay? All right, we'll stop there. Okay, so سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. You can stop the recording, Akhi. You can stop the recording, Akhi.